It looks like the all-electric series will be debuting at some point in 2023. Kurt Busch has hinted at potential retirement after the 2023 season, and it looks like Kyle Busch sponsor that was supposed to sponsor him has been officially revealed. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories here today on the channel. Let's go into jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to go on and start our paint schemes and sponsorship news first. Let's jump those really quickly. The first paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ben Rowe's 2022 Dano scheme that we're going to see next weekend at Indianapolis Raceway Park. The first time the Trucker Series has raced at Indianapolis Raceway Park, I believe, since around 2011. Really great to see it. Dano's is sponsoring Ben Rowe's. Paint scheme looks pretty good in my opinion. I like the green touch they have on it. Overall, really exciting news for sure, and I'm excited to see that they will sponsor Ben Rowe's this weekend. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Armani Williams' 2022 MDX exclusive scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Pretty good paint scheme in my opinion. Really excited to see Armani Williams will be making his truck series season debut. Really awesome for sure, and good paint scheme in my opinion. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Cole Custer's 2022 G-Coin scheme that we're going to see this weekend in the Xfinity Series race at Pocono. Not much to say other than the fact the only thing that's different is Cole Custer is behind the wheel. It does look good though. Excited to see if Cole Custer will be in the number 07 car. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is John Hunter Nemechek's 2022 Yahoo scheme that we're going to see this weekend in the truck race at Pocono. Simple and very clean. Not much going on here, but again, it does look pretty good in my opinion. The purple and the white all contrast very well, and it does look really good in my honest opinion. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Kurt Busch's 2022 McDonald's scheme that debuts this weekend at Pocono. I believe will be run in a couple other races as well. This looks absolutely incredible. The only thing I'm not a big fan of basically is the number. I think a white number would have worked better on this car. But I think this actually works really good. I think 2311 had a really good scheme here. It looks amazing, looks incredible, and I'm definitely excited to see this one coming out on the racetrack this weekend at Pocono. Next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Joey Logano's 2022 Verizon Frontline scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. I'm not a big fan of this paint scheme. Is it simple? Yes, but there just is no utilization of the sponsorship placement on the side of the car. And I think that there are some times where teams should be able to have this number center because I think it'll work better with the number center on this car. Not a big fan of this paint scheme. I'm glad Verizon sponsored Logano, but I'm overall not the biggest fan of this paint scheme. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Tyler Reddick's 2022 Sheet scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. This one I love. Absolutely love the colors. I love the yellow and I love the red and all the different colors on this car. I think this matches perfectly and he does a really good job utilizing the sponsorship placement as well. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Martin Truex Jr.'s 2022 DeWalt scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Really good looking paint scheme in my opinion. Very similar to Kyle Busch's from last week and also Christopher Bell's that he's ran for the last couple years. I think it looks really good though. Excited to see it for sure and looking forward to see it on the racetrack this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ryan Blaney's 2022 Duracell Menards scheme that we are going to see this weekend at Pocono. Not much to say here, other than the fact the only thing on this car is Duracell. I think it looks pretty good though. I like the black and the yellow contrast. It looks good and looking forward to see it on the racetrack this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Kyle C's 2022 U.S. Hydration scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Decent paint scheme in my opinion. Excited to see if Kyle C has another sponsor willing to work with them, and I'm hoping he has a good run in this car this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Josh Williams' 2022 Starbright Startron / Alloy scheme they're going to see this weekend at Pocono. The only thing that's really different about it is that you see Startron and Starbright are on the car. I think it's good that basically you have sponsors that are willing to be committed to guys like Josh Williams. I think that's a positive, and hopefully he'll have a good run in this car this weekend. And the final paint scheme we are taking a look at is Justin Allgaier's 2022 Brandt Precision Build scheme that we're going to see I believe, next week in Indianapolis, or I believe this weekend at Pocono. Good paint scheme in my opinion. Very excited to see that Brandt is changing up some things. I love the black and the red contrast. I think overall it looks really exciting, really great, and I'm definitely looking forward to see it on the racetrack this weekend or next weekend at Indy. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the purse money for this weekend at Pocono. So, of course, every Wednesday or every Thursday, Bob Pockers tends to reveal the purses for the Cup, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series for every race. And according to him, the Cup Series race has, for this, it'll be $6,828,051. For the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, it'll be $1,337,905. And for the Truck Series, it'd be $702,702. Pretty decent purses, in my opinion. Xfinity Series, I think this is one of the more expensive purses of the year so far. Trucks also kind of in that same position as well, a little more than normal. And then the Cup Series, of course, a little bit less than some of the other races have been this year. But those purses do look pretty solid and pretty good, in my opinion. Good to see at least some of the purses are up or some down. It's good to see that, though, and I'm definitely excited for sure to see that those are the purses for this weekend. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about YASCAR. Now, according to Adam Stern yesterday, he reported that YASCAR was the best-selling NASCAR merchandise online in June by a wide margin. It was by Prime of YASCAR per data by the Fanatics. YASCAR spoiled basically a ton of t-shirts, of course, being Prime Month in June. It sold a lot of t-shirts. I think that's really, really awesome. I think the shirt also, by the way, looks really, really cool. I did not purchase one personally, but I think the shirt looked really, really awesome. And I'm glad to see that something was able to sell as well as that. That's really awesome, in my opinion, and awesome to see that YASCAR was able to get a lot of t-shirts sold. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Pocono. As no surprise here, Pocono has decided to apply resin compound to every single turn on the racetrack. Now, I saw a lot of people basically giving backlash to the resin, and what people need to understand and realize is resin compound is not the same thing as PJ1. And we have seen really good races with the resin compound. The two best races, in my opinion, so far this year, the Coke 600 and Auto Club. Guess what they had? Resin compound. Well, I don't think resin compound needs to always be applied to racetracks to make racing better. I think the next gen car has generally raced good. I think people are overreacting to the fact they added resin compound. I think it's good that they did add resin compounds. I think the racing will be a little bit better, and I'm glad to see that they did add resin compound, because I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be perfectly honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Kyle Larson. As Kyle Larson went to the World of Outlaws race at Port Royal Speedway a couple nights ago and went on to win the World of Outlaws race, picking up, I believe, his third or fourth win in the World of Outlaws calendar, and also picking up his 28th career World of Outlaws victory. Kyle Larson also went out to another racetrack as well last night and was able to win there. Kyle Larson is really starting to get on a roll and is really starting to show what he's capable of. And he needs to do that for the Cup Series, but it's amazing to see what Kyle Larson generally is doing right now when it comes to his racing etiquette. He's going out there and racing in different forms of racing and going out there and winning. So great to see Kyle Larson going out there and winning, and I'm glad to see that Kyle Larson was able to go out there and win at Port Royal Speedway in the World of Outlaws. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Kyle Larson once again. As speaking of which, on the same night he won at Port Royal Speedway, Kyle Larson was able to win the best driver at the 2022 ESPYs. He was one of the 4 drivers who was nominated for this. He was nominated along with Alex Blow, who won the IndyCar Championship last year. Also, of course, Max Verstappen, who won the Formula 1 Championship, and then Steve Torrence, who won the NHRA Championship. Now, I think a lot of people are going to ask, why did Kyle Larson win it compared to basically a guy like a Max Verstappen or Alex Blow? Well, it's very, very simple. Kyle Larson last year won 33 races across the board altogether last year, won every major dirt event last year, and also had the first 10-win season in the Cup Series since 2007 that Jimmy Johnson did. Kyle Larson did a lot of things and accomplished a lot last year. Basically won every major dirt event he could and won a lot of big events. And a lot of Max Verstappen events being like, well, did Max Verstappen do a lot of things? Like, well, Max Verstappen won like 10 races last year, but again, he only had one competitor. In the Cup Series, there's a much bigger competitive field. You have to understand it's a much bigger competitive field than there is in Formula 1. That's no disrespect to Max Verstappen, and also it's arguable Max Verstappen didn't deserve the championship in some areas. So that's why Max Verstappen didn't win the championship, why Kyle Larson won the championship. First time a NASCAR driver has won this ESPY Awards for Best Driver since Kyle Busch. So I'm very happy to see Kyle Larson get the award. Well deserved, in my opinion, and happy to see that Kyle Larson got the award, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Roger Cruz. as Roger Cruz revealed they'll be making his Cars Tour debut at Hickory Speedway next Saturday on July the 30th. He'll be driving a number 8 Dale Jr. throwback, which will be a throwback to Dale Jr.'s 2006 black car that he ran as a throwback, of course, to his father in 2006. Aaron's 499. This is so awesome to see that Roger's getting behind the wheel of Car's late model car. I think he will be someone that's going to be really successful. I think he's won quite a few races at Hickory Speedway, so I think he'll be really, really fast. I think this is such a cool initiative that he's doing. I'm really excited for sure, and it's amazing to see that Roger Cruz will be making his Cars Tour debut at Hickory Speedway on July 30th. I think that's really awesome and amazing, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Mamba Smith, Dylan Smith. As Mamba Smith revealed that he'll be making his ARCA debut at Indianapolis Raceway Park next week, driving the 02 for Young's Motorsports. Mamba Smith has been in the industry for such a long time. The guy has been wanting to race in NASCAR for a very, very long time, and in the world of racing as well. And he's getting that opportunity finally to do that. I think he's someone I really am very intrigued to see how he's going to do. I know he has a lot of experience racing and stuff, but I've never really seen him race as much. So I think this is such a cool initiative they're doing, bringing him in. Young's Motorsports, I'm so happy you guys are bringing him in. It's amazing to see for sure. And I'm very happy to see that he's going to make his debut. If he wins the race with Young's Motorsports, that's going to be something the teams need to be looking at. But the industry is so happy for him. I'm so happy for him as well. And I'm happy to see that he'll be getting behind the wheel and racing. Really exciting, to be honest with you. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Chris Hackard. As it was revealed yesterday that Chris Hackard is going to be competing in the Truck Series race at Indianapolis Raceway Park next weekend, driving the number 30 for Young's Motorsports. Chris Hackard, I believe, made one start earlier this year with the team, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not entirely sure. But he's made a couple starts so far this year with the Raymond Brothers Racing organization. He'll be looking to have a good run in a 30 truck this weekend. Also doesn't help the fact that he has sponsorship funding that is playing a role into it. I'm not entirely sure how he's going to do. I haven't been too impressed with Chris Hackard really this year, and that's no disrespect to Chris, but I just have not generally been really happy with what Chris Hackard has really been doing behind the wheel. So I hope he can do really, really well, but my expectations going into the race are not really, really high, and I'm not sure how he's going to do, but I'm not sure he will have a great run, to be honest with you, next week. Hopefully he does have a good run, but we haven't seen a lot of good runs either from that 30 truck as well, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Casgard. As according to Casey Campbell, he reports that the NASCAR roster board has revealed that Casgard will drive the 48 for Big Machine Racing next weekend at the Indianapolis Road Course. Casgard has already made 1 or 2 starts so far for Big Machine Racing, those coming in Talladega and Dover earlier this year. And I don't think he ended up finishing that great in either race, unfortunately. I think he ended up finishing in the top 15. Now, I think Casgard will perform better, as it seems like Big Machine Racing has generally gotten a lot faster. We know that Tyler Reddick got a victory for them earlier this year at Texas Motor Speedway, but we're probably not going to see Tyler Reddick back in the wheel of that 48 car really anytime soon. Of course, that's because Reddick is basically getting ousted, basically, at this point, I think, from Richard Childress. But I think in all seriousness, Kaz will be a threat because it's an Indy road course race, and 48 team seems to be good on road courses, so he could definitely be an underdog pick to win. Do I think he's going to win? I really don't know, but I think it's great to see that he will be competing in the Indy road course race for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Really exciting for sure, and definitely good luck to him that he will be competing in that race, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Sebastian Vettel. Now, Sebastian Vettel has been asked about that weird McLaren rumor about him potentially replacing Daniel Ricciardo either next year or 2023, and Base says that McLaren rumor that he's been involved in is just a rumor. He is one of 9 drivers currently at the moment that have basically been rumored at some point to get behind the wheel of that second car. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo could return next year, but you've got drivers like Alex Palou, Colton Herta, Pat O'Ward's been named, Stoffel Van Dorn, Alex Albon's been named. A lot of drivers have been named to get behind the wheel of this car, and it's just crazy how many people have been asked. And Sebastian Vettel, I think, has a really long-term commitment with Aston Martin. I think he wants to stay with Aston Martin, so it really isn't a surprise. I think he basically saying, no, I didn't 100% say that I wanted to do this. I think he has a long-term deal with Aston Martin, so I think that's why he's a little bit caught off guard with this, and genuinely surprised. Don't get me wrong, I think going to McLaren will be amazing, but again, I think they're trying to get Alex Palou into that ride for next year, 2024, or even Colton Herta. They're trying to also look at him as well as potential candidate to get behind the wheel of that car. So We're going to have to wait and see what happens long term, but it looks like the Sebastian Vettel is not going to be going, and it seems like the rumor is unfortunately not true for those fans. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Max Verstappen. Now, according to Adam Stern, he reports about Max Verstappen, talk about that he really wants to keep all these legacy tracks around, because there's a big rumor going around that Spa could lose their day in Formula One after the 2022 season. And here's what he said about that. He says, I don't want to see myself in 2028 or whatever driving only on street circuits close to the city, just for the fan engagement or whatever, because you need the kind of basically kind of iconic tracks on the calendar. I 1000% agree with him. Yes, I love that they're trying to go to some of these street circuits and bring the product to the people. You can't just have street circuits on the schedule, though. You still got to have those iconic tracks like Imola, Monza, Spa. You got to have those iconic tracks on the circuit. Again, I understand what Formula 1 is doing, trying to bring it to the fans and bring it to the city, which I think you need to do that. But at the same token and same time, you got to still have all those iconic tracks that are on the Formula 1 circuit that have been there for years. And Max, of course, plans to be around until 2027. His contract goes, I think, to 2027 or 2028. Could retire after 2028. He's indicated that, but we don't know if that's going to entirely happen. But I really believe that Max Verstappen, generally, he's on point here. I think that basically you got to have all these iconic tracks on the schedule to keep the series fresh and moving. So I think just a good thing that he did say that for sure, and maybe we'll see what happens long term. But he basically says that he wants to keep all his iconic tracks, and trust me, if you want the series to survive long term, you got to keep all these iconic tracks on the circuit and can't just keep going to street circuits. I know the Spa is a dangerous track, but man, you can't just start getting rid of all these iconic tracks because of the danger. That's what sports are made from. Sometimes the danger of racing sometimes happens. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Chicago Street Course. And we've already talked about it. It's already been confirmed at this point, even though it's not officially been signed up to this point. It's been confirmed that there will be a Chicago Street Course race heading into 2023. And there was an article that was posted, and Adam Stern basically retweeted from the Chicago Tribune, and he basically tweeted that, and from it says, "We welcome NASCAR and its fans. The first ever race slated for next July will bring in fans with the money to spend. That race may even go way toward dispelling the depression's Chicago stereotypes that basically Chicago has." There's a lot of stereotypes Chicago has I'm really not going to get into, but it's some things that are really, really funny. Some of the names that I've heard from Chicago have been really, really funny names that I absolutely laugh at. Now, of course, there's a Chicago Street Course race. Like I mentioned, it's not been 100% signed pen to paper. There's been a lot of back and forth between the alderman and basically the mayor, Lori Lightfoot. Basically, they say that they were not basically approached with this deal. However, I think that it's BS. I think that I'm not even the biggest fan of Lori Lightfoot, and I believe that basically she basically told them and we basically knew about this. So I'm surprised that they were not known about this. But I'm definitely intrigued by this event for sure to see what happens. It's good to see at least some people are supportive. You've got some that are in support of this and some that are going to oppose. And this is something that's going to be basically followed, as you're going to see a lot of people who are going to support this event and people who are going to be against. We've got mayor candidates who are against it and mayor candidates who are for it. So we'll see what happens long term, but there are some people for it and some people against it, and sometimes you're going to have that in the world of racing. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Team Hagesburg, as Team Hagesburg put out a potential teaser announcement that could be coming in the near future. And if you watch the video very, very closely, you notice a driver that is looking to get in there that's not Luis Hayes or Jacques Villeneuve. If you look in the video, that is Daniel Kvyat. Now, Daniel Kvyat has been rumored and rumblings over the last 2 weeks that Daniel Kvyat has been in conversations to race in the NASCAR Cup Series with Team Hagesburg. And there's a very strong possibility that his first race could be coming up here very, very shortly, either at the Indianapolis Road Course next week. There's a good chance he could be running there next week, or could also be racing at Watkins Glen down the road and racing against a guy like Kimi Räikkönen. Now, Daniel Kvyat also is approved by NASCAR. He has got approval from NASCAR. I don't know if he had to do any of that testing or not to get approved, but he has been approved also by NASCAR and can race in that event as well. I'm very excited to see we're seeing such a big open wheel environment. You've got guys like Kimi Räikkönen coming over. Daniel Ricciardo's had interest in NASCAR. Mark Andretti's interested in racing in NASCAR. Joseph Newgarden has shown some interest very, very recently. You've got also Julio Castroneves, who's looking to get in there, and there's been articles released recently that a couple teams are in conversations for Julio to run the Daytona 500. I love the fact that we're seeing more and more series coming out and trying to support this. I think it's great to see that we got guys like Daniel Kvyat looking to get in. So there's a good chance he probably will get in. And I think this is overall really, really exciting, to be honest with you. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Nick Sanchez. As it was revealed yesterday that Nick Sanchez is going to be going to Big Machine Racing for a couple races. Of course, we know that he will not be returning to Busch Motorsports. He's taking a next step up, and he'll be driving for Big Machine Racing for 4 races this year. His first race will come at Bristol in the fall, followed by Texas Motor Speedway, Las Vegas, and then Homestead will be the last race that Nick Sanchez is going to run. I think this is a massive, massive deal. I think Nick Sanchez is a really, really talented and a really, really awesome driver. Nick Sanchez has been really solid so far in ARCA. He's gotten 2 or 3 victories so far in the ARCA Championship. And right now sits second in points, about 1 or 2 points behind his teammate, Roger Cruz, currently in the championship. Now, what are our expectations for Nick Sanchez in these select starts? One, just to get some experience. He has had a couple starts so far, and Xfinity really haven't gone great. I anticipate his runs being a lot better, though. I think that he's going to be a much more competitive in this car compared to, like, let's say, Busch Motorsports. And that's no disrespect to Busch Motorsports. I just don't think Busch Motorsports right now is generally a better team at the moment right now than basically at the moment a team like Big Machine. They've gotten a win this year, and Busch His team has not been able to win up to this point this year. So overall, my honest opinion, I think it's exciting to see this. I think he could be a surprise and underdog to win races. I don't think he's going to, but he could be an underdog to win. But I think in general, it is really exciting to see that he is going to be behind the wheel of this car. I think this is really, really exciting, to be honest with you. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about suspensions. As it was revealed on Wednesday that Jerry Bones and 2 crew members have been suspended for the next 4 points-paying races, including this weekend, upcoming race at Pocono, and then, of course, Indianapolis Road Course, then Richmond, and then Watkins Glen as well. And the reason that they basically have suspended the team is because of the tire coming off at New Hampshire. Now, the reason it is also very controversial is because last weekend, Christabel, he lost a wheel, and it went down pit road, and they did not give a penalty to Christabel's pit crew at all. Now, there's some theories behind it, but I think the theories are stupid. Let me say this. If you have a tire penalty in NASCAR, you need to be consistent and basically enforce it equally. You can't just 1 week basically, we're not going to penalize the team, and then the next week, penalize the team for it. It's basically the same thing. It went down pit road. Regardless of how many cars were on pit road or not, for safety purposes, you still have to give an equal share of penalties. And I think this is something that needs to be addressed too. I don't think NASCAR is going to change the rules, but at the beginning of next year, they need to basically reduce penalties or fix some of the gun issues. We've seen so many tires come off this year, and now you've got controversy because basically you suspended somebody, but you didn't suspend the other guys. I don't understand that, and I don't get that. And maybe it's because Bubba also a pit crew, perhaps, because those guys have had issues all year. But still, I mean, come on. We got to be starting to be consistent with how we're doing things in the sport. We can't just start penalizing one person 1 week and then don't penalize the person the next week. Where's the logic in that? I just want to start seeing consistency from NASCAR. It's something that they've had a problem with for a very, very long time, is they're not great with being consistent, and they need to start being consistent. One thing they are great at consistently being is inconsistent with how they rule stuff. They just have got to start being consistent. There's got to be a boundary. There's got to be a line, and they've got to start being consistent with how they're penalizing people. I don't get it. I don't understand it, and it doesn't make any sense to me. You penalize one guy 1 week, and you don't penalize the other team another week. It just doesn't make sense. There has to be a line in the sand. You can't start having these gray areas. It's got to be black and white. It can't be gray. I want them to start being consistent with the rulings. So if you don't start being consistent, it's not a good look for the sport. But hey, it's not the first time NASCAR has done something where they're inconsistent. That's why we call them consistently inconsistent in the sport. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Napa. As it was announced on Wednesday afternoon that Napa has announced a multi-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports. They will continue sponsoring Chase Elliott for 26 races per season. Now, it's unclear how long Napa is going to sponsor Chase Elliott, but it looks like it's probably at least be a 2 or 3 year deal. I actually would not be surprised if his deal is going to go all the way through the rest of Chase Elliott's tenure at Hendrick Motorsports for now, because right now Chase Elliott has a contract that goes through 2027. Currently at this moment. Now, Chase Elliott, of course, has been having a really strong year so far. He's scoring 3 victories this year, and they've had a long-term commitment with Hendrick Motorsports. They have been sponsoring Hendrick Motorsports since Chase Elliott really came on the scene, since around 2014 when he left Martin Truex Jr. after the 2013 year, and also left Michael Waltrip Racing as well. I think it's great to see Indianapolis continue their combination with Hendrick Motorsports. Again, they've had a really good relationship together for a long time, and Napa's been really supporting Chase Elliott and has been having activation with Chase Elliott as well. I'm generally really happy to see for sure that they are continuing their commitment with Chase Elliott. I think this is really, really awesome. Amazing to see for sure. Again, I'm very happy to see Indianapolis continue their commitment with Chase Elliott. I think they will remain with Chase Elliott for the rest of his career, but it's great to see Hendrick will have activation, will continue sponsoring Chase Elliott long term. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the TV deal when it comes to the money. Now, Steve Phelps is being interviewed at the Chicago Street Courts event, and Steve Phelps says that I don't have a crystal ball, but at the end, it'll be in a good place. The key for us is about the growth of the pie, because then you're dealing at a position of strength. Now, what is he talking about? When it comes to the upcoming TV deal, which the new TV deal is going to be coming here in the next few years, the TV deal is supposed to be coming up, starts in 2025. A lot of teams have been wanting a much bigger cent of the pie. Currently, right now, at the moment, I believe the TV gets 70, basically the racetracks get 70% of the deal. I believe the teams get 20% of the deal, and NASCAR gets 10%. A lot of teams and drivers have been wanting a more equal share of this TV deal pie, saying like maybe the tracks get 50% and the rest of us get around 50% or even 33% distribution. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of tracks basically upgrade their stuff and facilities right now, because they know they're probably going to be losing a lot of that money. Some tracks have not been losing it, but some tracks have known that they got to start making some changes to the racetrack. Otherwise, they're basically going to lose a lot and potentially could lose their date as well. And attendance is going to matter a lot more. That's why I've seen a lot of motion from these other racetracks. And I think that is such a good thing, and NASCAR is trying to, at the end, I think they are going to make a more equal pie. I think they basically need to give out a more equal distribution for the teams and the drivers. One, Denny, 2311, we know, I know we're going to talk about 2311 here very, very shortly when it comes to multiple other stories coming up. But they basically said they're not planning to expand. They're not going to until the TV deal is basically changed, and I agree with them on that. They got to give a more equal distribution. We had Dover filings basically show the track is making more and more money every year, except this past year they got great attendance. But they basically, you know, they were increasing money by not having great attendance for many, many years. So naturally and generally, in all seriousness, when it comes to the TV deal, I want to see a much more chunk of the pie, basically a better distribution. When it comes to that, I think it makes sense for them, the teams to basically say, we need more of that pie. The pie makes a ton of sense, and they need to start doing that. But we're going to hear more about TV deals, unclear what the TV brand, what companies are going to be part of this TV deal. But naturally and generally, it looks like the TV deal, they're going to try to have a more equal distribution of the pie, which I think is a major thumbs up, in my honest and sincere opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Kyle Busch. Now, we've talked about Kyle Busch a lot on this channel here over the last 2 weeks, and this is all due to the sponsorship to back. Right now, Kyle Busch does not have a sponsor for 2023, and M&M's is leaving at the conclusion of 2022, so they have been searching for a sponsor. Now, David Wilson had said in an article with NBC a couple of nights ago that Dustin Long had put out, he had basically said that they had a sponsor that had basically was Dave had, but that deal fell through. Well, according to an article that was released today in the Friday 5 that Dustin Long always does every single week, if you have not checked that article out, I suggest you do. He talks about a lot of different things. In that article, he mentions that the sponsor that actually was supposed to sponsor Kyle Busch was Oracle. Now, for a lot of you who don't know what Oracle is a technology-based company that is based in the Dallas, I believe in the Dallas, Texas area, and they're one of the biggest technology companies in the upcoming. They also are involved in the world of racing as well, because they are one of the major brandings of Red Bull Racing in Formula 1. And like I said, they were the company that they were looking at. Oracle is a major, major company. So for them to lose Oracle is really, really frustrating, because that was maybe the sponsor that was going to sponsor Kyle Busch for 2023. So now Toyota has to figure out what they're going to do, and they have to now start scrambling to find a sponsor, because we're getting into the later portion of the year. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I thought 100% was going to be set in stone that Kyle Busch was going to be back with Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. And there still is a good chance he does return to the 18 car in 2023. But there are still looking for other sponsors, and they now have to start looking at backup plans to swallow guys like Ty Gibbs and even Tyler Reddick. So here's what scenarios for Kyle Busch, what happens. Number one is the obvious one. He returns to Joe Gibbs Racing and stays in the number 18 car. The other options is that he could leave this team and go to another potential manufacturer. Could go to Stewart-Haas Racing perhaps and go to the 10 car. It's unclear currently right now if we're going to see Eric Almirola back in the 10 car next year. There's talk maybe reconsidering because of Smithfield's sponsorship, but I think Smithfield could also commit to Kyle Busch if he comes over. Kyle Busch could be a good driver also for the team, but it also affects his Truck Series branding as well because they probably would switch to Ford and become a Ford developmental team instead of a Chevy developmental team, which Toyota is not going to love. Also could go to Richard Childress Racing, perhaps. Maybe that's the one I've heard is he can go to RCR and race there, but again, this is unlikely. The most likely scenario that I've heard that could end up happening, this one actually is a very likely scenario, is he goes 1 year to 2311 Racing and goes to a third 2311 Racing car. Toyota buys up a third charter for 2311 Racing, most likely from the Spire campus. I think Spire will probably absolutely would take, potentially losing 1 year with their charter. They lose their charter for a year. They send it to 2311 Racing and put Kyle Busch in a third car. And then, if RCR would like to, they could drop Tyler Reddick a year early and put Tyler Reddick in the 18 car for 1 year, and then in 2024 have a swap between Tyler Reddick and Kyle Busch. Now, this actually seems like a much more realistic possibility. One, 2311 Racing be able to find sponsorship for Kyle Busch more than likely. It's Michael Jordan's team. They've been able to find sponsors, and they could bring it in as well, and maybe bring some of those RCR sponsors in as well to sponsor Kyle Busch. But this story has been something we've been following for such a long time. Is basically they're still looking for a sponsor for Kyle Busch right now. And the fact that they have not found one is really, really frustrating. And I feel for Kyle Busch fans too, because again, we're getting to near the end of the year. And I think that at some point, this is not only going to affect the team itself, it's going to affect Joe Gibbs Racing overall. I think with all this sponsorship disaster and struggles going on, I think it's going to affect a lot more people than you all realize. And I think it could play a much bigger factor and a much bigger role in the near future. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the first of two major stories in today's episode, as we're going to talk about NASCAR's all-electric series. Now, we've already talked about this all-electric series on the channel, but we had really no indication on when this series was going to run. Well, yesterday, it was reported by the Kicking Tires Group, and Jerry Jordan from the Kicking Tires organization reported about this all-electric series. And according to what he's been shown, these leaked documents, NASCAR is planning to demonstrate an all-electric series in 2023, and this car that they are going to demonstrate at this track will debut at the Busch Light Coliseum for the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. The plan right now is that Q3 is the plan. So in the third part of the year, the plan is for this series to potentially debut. According to the article as well, there are going to be 12 vehicles, 3 to 4 per manufacturer. So there could be a new manufacturer that does come in perhaps in this respective series. Or they could just be 3 manufacturers and 4 cars. There will be non-competitive pit stops in this. And of course, there's a reason for that because again, these are electric cars. There will be no competitive pit stops. And according to this, it will have 3 900-volt DC voltage. On it as well, it will have 1,000 horsepower engines, being the fast engines the Cup Series has had in a very, very long time, since they basically had the 850 or 950 horsepower, 900 horsepower engines in 2014. According to this article as well, it'll be 2 30-minute races per weekend. It'll be at 6 venues, meaning there will be 12 races altogether. Now, why is this happening and more than likely going to happen? Now, I'm going to explain why this is happening. NASCAR and a lot of manufacturers are looking at the future. You look at Formula One, they have their own Formula E series that currently races, and also in the rally world, Extreme E. So this would be the third biggest E series. It would probably be the biggest E series. Why is this happening? Well, number one, trying to attract new manufacturers. An electric series can do that. You could have companies like, per se, Tesla come in. You could have series like Hyundai come in, Honda come in, who have electric-type vehicles in their brands as well. It's like Toyota as well could bring their own electric brands as well and can bring those into the series. Another big reason is because a lot of these manufacturers that NASCAR has right now, they're heading to more of an electric platform currently at the moment. Basically, the person that runs GM right now, she said that the goal is for GM, all the GM cars and Chevy, to be fully electric by 2035. Dodge, which has been talked about potentially coming back in the future, Dodge has basically said that they are going to have in a full car, because Dodge is looking more like to come back to NASCAR in the next couple of years. Dodge basically said that they're going fully electric with their car, and their car is going to be an electric muscle car. Ford's heading in that direction, and Toyota is somewhat heading in that direction as well in some respective areas as well. What NASCAR is doing right here is they're getting with the times. What they realize is that they have to do it. And I know a lot of people are not big fans of electric cars, and trust me, Do I want all three series to be electric? No. But there are going to be electric components in the car, and what they're doing is they're planning also for the future when it comes to potentially maybe replacing the Xfinity series perhaps with another series with this, or for that matter, adding a new series. And again, I'm not against this entirely because I think if this is going to be its own separate series ran for at least the first couple of years, so be it. Let it come in a series. I think another series not taking away from some of the other series, I think is a major, major positive. And I think what NASCAR realizing is they have to get with the times. I am definitely very intrigued and very interested. Do I love that cars are going fully electric? No, I don't love the fact that we're heading more to electric platform. I'm a guy who likes the sound of gas and engines, and V6 engines as well. But NASCAR really is heading toward that direction of looking at what they're going to do with the electric side of things. And I also think this Project 56 car that's being built in Le Mans is going to have some of these electric components as well. But NASCAR said, at least for the Cup Series side of things, they're not going to be going fully electric with that car. There'll be some electric components. NASCAR said, at least for the Cup Series side of things, they're not going to go fully electric. Now, Xfinity, that's another story. There's a really good chance that could end up being a fully electric series heading into 2023, or that in 2024, 2025, perhaps, in the next couple of years. Which, again, I don't think a lot of people really want that, but NASCAR is just trying to test the waters and see. And I think people will tune in and be intrigued by this. I know the Formula E and Extreme E don't get overall the biggest viewership numbers out there. Their attendance for their races are great, but their viewership numbers generally struggle. But I really like this. I really like it. They're testing this out. I think this is a really cool thing, and it's good to see NASCAR is looking to be going electric here in the near future, at least in the Cup, not in the Cup Series, but at least in a different own series. I think this is really cool for sure, and I'm definitely intrigued to see how this is going to work for NASCAR. Definitely intrigued for sure, and we'll see what happens when it comes to this electric series, but this is a massive, massive deal, and NASCAR is looking toward the future. And now we're going to jump on to the final major story in today's episode as we're talking about Kurt Busch. Now, we've talked about this many years over the channel, but Kurt Busch for years has talked about potentially retiring after season, and he doesn't do it. Well, Kurt Busch was on CBS yesterday, talking about the Chicago Street Course event that will be taking place in Chicago. And if you watch the CBS video, about 3-minute mark in that video, he basically hints at the event. He says he hints at possible retirement following the 2023 season. He says that, and I'm glad that I'm having the best chance to drive next year for the team, being 23-11, and I might be done driving after that. He is hinting at potential retirement. Now, Kurt Busch has said as of recently as well that 2311 has also told him that he can race as long as he wants. Now, I've been following the Kurt Busch saga for many, many years. Kurt Busch, this is not the first time a Kurt Busch has hinted at potential retirement. If you actually go back to 2019, there was at one point a rumor that Kurt Busch was going to retire after 2019. But he then decided and signed an extension through 2020 or 2021. Then we thought he was going to retire after 2021. And he comes over to 2311 Racing. And now, once again, in 2023, he's hinting at potential retirement. But here's the thing. I think it's more than likely going to happen now than the last couple times. And I'll explain why. Kurt Busch is one of the oldest drivers in the Cup Series. In fact, I believe he is the second oldest full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver behind Kevin Harvick. And Kevin Harvick, more than likely, is going to retire at the end of the 2023 season. He's said that he's probably going to finish his contract with Mr. Haas. And then he's more than likely going to retire after the 2023 season. Now, Kurt Busch, like I mentioned, has been in the Cup Series for a very, very long time. He has raced in Cup since 2001. Actually, since 2010, he made some starts in 2000 for Roush 97 car, and then ran his first full-time season in 2001. And Kurt Busch has had a lot of success in this series. He scored over 30 wins. In fact, he scored 34 career NASCAR Cup Series victories up to this point. Has a Cup Series championship back in 2004, has won a lot of iconic racing, of course, the Coke 600, the Brickyard 400, not Brickyard 400, Coke 600. He's also, I believe, won the, not Center 500, but he's also won the Daytona 500, and is a future NASCAR Hall of Famer. It is going to be very sad to see Kurt Busch go when he does decide to retire, whether it's after 2023 or 2024. But there's another big reason why I think there's a really good possibility that he does retire. The name is Tyler Reddick. I think that 2311 is also looking at him as a potential candidate to replace. We already know that Tyler Reddick is going to be going to 2311 in 2024. It's unclear, though, if they're going to have 3 or 2 cars in 2024. That's one thing to watch going forward, unless, of course, they get Kyle Busch over there. That's one thing to watch. But Tyler Reddick is for sure going to 2311 Racing heading into 2024. And we don't know, like I said, it's going to be 3 or 2 cars, but I think that it'll be replacing Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch also wants to do TV. He's talked about he's got multiple options. He's talked about his good, loving relationship with Fox Sports and what he's been able to do at Fox Sports. So he's been looking at that as a potential replacement player where he can go if he does return to 23XI. But there's also, like I said, a chance that he could return to 23XI racing after 2023. Now, that being said, what are my predictions for Kurt Busch? I think next year is going to be last year for Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch has been in the Cup Series for a very, very long time. He's had nearly 800 starts. He had 775 career starts in the Cup Series and has had a lot of success in the sport, and he's been up and down. I know some people will disagree with me, but I believe Kurt Busch is one of the greatest NASCAR drivers to ever hit the race and get on the racetrack. Yes, he doesn't have as many wins as guys like Dale Earnhardt or Jimmy Johnson, even Tony Stewart, but when you look at Kurt Busch and his statistics, Kurt Busch is underrated. He gets best out of his equipment. He's won racing every single team he's gotten into. He's won with 23XI Racing now. Nearly got 2 wins with them this year. He's won with Chip Ganassi Racing, brought Chip Ganassi Racing, helped them get back to their form. He basically has won with other teams, nearly won with Furniture Row Racing, really helped Furniture Row Racing become and flourish as a great organization. And then, of course, he basically raced for other organizations like, of course, Phoenix Raceway, Phoenix Racing, nearly won with that organization, won a lot with Team Penske, and has had so much success in this series as well, and has gotten a lot done in this series as well. Do I think, again, there's also a chance he could return next year. There's a very big possibility. But, again, he's getting up there in age, and he's been racing this series for a very, very long time. And, you know, he probably wants to start enjoying life and doing other things. Maybe helping out Kyle, perhaps, when it comes to basically working Kyle's company, perhaps, and routing energy. Who really knows at this point? Or helping 23XI Racing, becoming the guy as a developmental guy, could help in the engineering side of things. I think he does have some engineering experience as well, and also could help bring some sponsorship in for the team as well as an ambassador for the organization. He's going to be a 23XI Racing, whether it's a driver or basically working as someone as one of the higher ups. I think they're going to try to put him as one of the higher ups and as an office job when he does retire. But I do think next year, in all seriousness, is going to be the last year for Kurt. I just don't see Kurt racing after 2023, unfortunately. And that's no disrespect to Kurt Busch fans. And it's a shame, too, because you look at Kurt Busch. He's one of the really last drivers and part of my childhood. There's not many. I've been a fan now for 15 years, and the fact that Kurt Busch may retire, and now you got Truex then retiring after next year, Kevin Harvick retiring after next year, guys like Michael McDowell on the verge retiring maybe after next year. It's just so sad all these drivers I grew up watching are on the verge of retiring. But if Kurt Busch retires, he deserves to retire. He's done it, deserves it. He's done everything he wants to. If he wants to retire, he absolutely has the right to. He's been in the series for a long time. He's one of the longest tenured drivers in the sport, and all success for Kurt Busch. So we'll see what happens, but there's a good chance next year could be his last year in the Cup Series. So anyway, that is it for today's Lawn NASCAR and Motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notification on be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Let's go to blow over that and comment your thoughts on today's video. Do you think Kurt Busch is going to retire after 2023? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about NASCAR's all-electric series, and do you think it will be successful or not? Let me know in the comments below. We've got a couple videos coming tomorrow on the channel. We're going to have a Truck Series race review after the regular season championship, and we're also going to have the SRX Championship review, where there will not be an Xfinity Series race review because there's not going to be enough time to get that out. And then on Sunday, there will be the Cup Series race review from Pocono, and then Monday, I'm not sure what will be coming out. Probably NASCAR news video, but keep your notification tabs on. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.